Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, good morning, Salam. Welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I am a CICC licensed immigration consultant. Not that you already don't know about that, but it sort of become a tagline when you sort of start the video. It just sort of flows like that. But welcome to the channel. Today is another episode of our weekly roundup, Saturday morning live. Very exciting to do today's episode because there are so many good things to talk about and a lot better things to talk about, which has brought so much of relief to so many people out there. We're talking about the postgraduate work permit extensions that were given. Express Entry held their largest all-program draw this week, 7,000 invitations. We're going to talk about that. So many PNP draws happened. Ontario has also been on fire once again. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about few small other things as well. And of course, before I even get started, today, 18th of March, Saturday, in my office, let me put the address up here, we have a information session, which is of course free. We don't charge for any of these things anyways. If you are in the vicinity, then here, this is the office address link. Not link, but office address, and you're more than welcome. Please do come to our office at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are having this information session where we are absolutely open to questions on Express Entry, PNPs, work permits, postgraduate work permits, international students, what you're struggling with, what you cannot figure out a way with. We'll be happy to take those questions. Obviously, my office is big, but not big enough to accommodate a lot of people. I hope you get in there early, and if at all by watching this video you come in late, or if you don't find a spot, then I apologize to you in advance that we would not be able to accommodate you. But I'm looking forward to this afternoon because this is also going to be exciting. Before I get on with this flow, let's get started with our today's stream. Positive thinking, and I love this one, positive thinking will let you do everything better than negative thinking will. Well, if you have a choice between a positive thinking and if you have a choice between negative thinking, why in the world will you ever choose negative thinking? Aren't you better off thinking positively and then letting that positive thoughts give you some energy, give you some positive vibes so that you can meet the world head on? Let me give you a small example or an experiment and try this, and trust me how this will work. See this? I want you to start thinking about red color around you, all right? Look for a red shirt, look for a red wall, look for a red house, look for a red car, look for anything red, and start keeping, for that few minutes that you're looking at that red, keep a number, keep a tab, go in a crowd and see red, 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 red. After you have seen, or after you have written how many red things you saw at that point of time, then tell me, did you see black? Did you see green? Did you see brown? The chances are you're going to say no. The reason for that is because you told your mind you're searching for red, and your mind basically blacked out everything. All it was looking for is red color, and it turned a blind eye to a green, to a black, to a brown, to a blue, because your mind was only looking for red because you told your mind to look for red. What that basically means is your mind will do what you tell your mind to do, not what it wants to do. Because if you cannot control your mind, then what are you going to do anyways? So therefore, the idea is have positive thoughts. If you will have positive thoughts, you will look at everything positively. You will be a positive person. You will have that smile on your face. People will start liking you, loving you better probably. And you will also see opportunities coming your way, which otherwise you may have turned a blind eye to. Because remember, your mind, if it is closed, it's not going to let anything else come in. Mind filter, that's what we're talking about. This is something which I love. I practice on a daily basis, and trust me, it works every single time. Moving on, Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup. That's what we're doing today. Stay up to date on Canadian immigration news and trends on our TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, of course. Topics of discussion, as I already told you, we'll be talking about the PNPs, the Express Entry, other news, and then we will get on with the question and answers. Until such time, I recommend and I suggest kindly hold on to your questions so we don't miss them at the end of the session. Starting with Ontario PNP. Ontario, as I said, they're just doing tremendously in terms of their PNP draws. It's just that Ontario hasn't yet announced what is their nomination quota for this year. And I'm absolutely sure that number is big. I'm absolutely sure it's more than 14 to 15,000, probably 16, maybe 17,000, hoping for that. Because the more that number, it will transpire into all other categories as well, which basically means other categories like human capital priorities, French speakers, international students, foreign workers, a master's, PhD stream. Everybody will have a bigger pool of nomination quota. Everybody gets more people get invited. So that's something very, very positive that will happen. But for this week, on the 14th of March, Ontario held 2 draws under the international student stream. Now, the international student stream basically is for people who have completed their diploma degree in Ontario. Doesn't have to be master's, PhD, but diploma degree in Ontario, at least a 1-year program or a 2-year program. Now, 1-year program also has conditions, 2-year program also has conditions. Please do check Ontario's website before you jump onto that. And in this, you do not need any prior work experience, but you definitely need a job offer from an eligible employer. And in this case, first, they invited in 2 groups. So the first group were 606 people were invited in healthcare and tech occupations. Minimum score was 70. Now, the score of 70 is Ontario's grid point score. They have a separate portal where people who are eligible with job offers in Ontario who can create their expression of interest and get invited. The second group here was candidates in the skilled trades stream, where 300 people were invited and the score was of 74. So great opportunity for international students who are in Ontario. And if they've completed their education and they've received their job offer, then this is another stream that they can apply through. On the 16th of March, Ontario also held 2 targeted draws for express entry French-speaking skilled worker stream. Now, this also comes under the human capital priority stream, but it's a separate substream, French-speaking skilled worker stream. They invited again, this was a targeted draw. So they invited 271 candidates in the finance, health, and education occupations, and 344 candidates under the tech and the skilled trades occupation. In the first group, the CRS range score was as low as 294. Wow. And in the second group, the CRS range, also quite low, was at 400 to 489. Now, the upper cutoff, 489, is, as I said, I've been saying it so many times, is always in tandem with the last express entry draw, which we now know was at 490. So 1 point less is always the upper cutoff with Ontario. 294. Guys, I mean, if you've been part of my channel, if you've been part of our Facebook groups, if you've been part of any of our social media platforms, you would know that how much I have been talking about French as a second language. You need to take French up, and French can give you definite and significant advantage. It's in front of you, 294. That was the lowest CRS score who was invited in this particular draw. Imagine, right? That could have been you had you taken up French. Not only, it also adds scores to your express entry CRS scores. So French can have significant advantage. Mind you, I don't know yet because there has been no announcement, but I absolutely am certain that French will also have advantage when the Bill C-19 changes are implemented. So that is again something that you can defend yourself with in terms if you're worried about the Bill C-19 changes. British Columbia conducted draws on the 14th of March. They invited more than 230 candidates in their weekly BCPNP draw. They targeted, under this, there was a draw of targeted tech, and they invited 197 students from the 197 candidates from the international skilled worker stream and the international graduate stream, including express entry candidates. Required minimum SIRS score. They have a separate portal as well. Their SIRS score was 83. Pretty cool there. The province also invited candidates working in the following occupation: 23 early childhood educators and assistants, and a score of only 60 points, 10 healthcare workers. Now, for people who are in BC and who are still struggling to figure out what they can do, they've completed 1 year of education. They're still figuring out, should I study 1 more year or not? Or if you're on the fence with the second year program, early childhood educator program could also be something which you can look at. BCPNP has been very consistent over quite a significant period of time, inviting people with early childhood educator experience. So this is something which you can consider. You complete your education, complete the certification, get some work experience, get a job offer. And this stream where the score is only 60, this could be something which you can absolutely consider if you are looking for pathways. Prince Edward Islands conducted their draw, which is a scheduled draw. They always announce the draws earlier. I mean, in advance itself. They invited 144 candidates, of which 138 were from the labor and express entry stream. 6 invitations were issued to the business entrepreneur category with a minimum point threshold of only 52. So if you are an individual who was looking to come to Canada on an business immigration program through the provincial nominee, Prince Edward Islands offers a great opportunity. Score is only of 52. And mind you, sometimes you can get away with no graduate degree. You can get away with a high school diploma. That should be fine. If you can get away with low IELTS scores, that should be fine. But do take a look at the Prince Edward Islands program. It could be of interest to you. It could help you. Prince Edward Islands typically holds a draw once every month, but I know a lot of people always are, why did I not get invited? I created. Well, Prince Edward Islands usually always concentrates or basically gives an advantage to people who are living, working in the island itself. And they usually do not have enough quota left to invite anybody from outside. So Prince Edward Islands, great draw there again. Let's jump on to the very good subject of express entry. IRCC finally, after almost a 2 months hiatus, and this time it was a pause which none of us could figure out. We were all scratching our heads trying to figure out why the pauses. We all had different theories, but they came back with a bang. This time invited 7,000 candidates with a minimum CRS score of 490. They seem to be fixated with the score of 490. I'm not sure what their fancy is to 490. For some reason, they keep getting stuck at 490 time and again. We have seen over the last few months now that comes to 490 and something happens to IRCC and they sort of take a bit of a break there. But I hope this time they don't do that. The number of invitations in this draw beats the previous record of 5,500, which was also a very big draw that was invited in the last program draw. I mean, it's too early to break records, but hey, since we keep a tab on numbers, this is how it is. This was the first all-program draw since the 18th of January. So almost 2 months. That is how much time they took to conduct this draw. But thankfully, they did invite 7,000 people. Because they invited 7,000 people, they were able to clear out all the number of profiles that had gotten into the pool over the last 2 months and came back to 490, where they had paused the first time. Let's just quickly take some more details into that was the 243rd draw, March 15th, 7,000 invitations, 490. And the good thing is this time the tie-breaking rule is of quite late, which was only 16th of February 2023, which basically meant anybody who created an express entry profile after 16th of February with the score of 490 only, 490, this applies only to 490, then they were not considered. Everybody else before that were absolutely considered. So this was pretty cool. This was pretty great in terms of being invited. Again, as I said, all program draw. The pool breakdown looked pretty healthy in terms of not too many profiles got added, because if you see over a span of 2 months, only 7,000 people got added with the score of 490. Still not a small number by any chance, but based on how things were happening earlier, it was, you would take it any day, right? Now, if IRCC does continue with the regular express entry draws, as we are keeping our fingers crossed with and hoping and praying, then you could definitely expect the next draw to be below 490. Of course, duh. I mean, why wouldn't you? The next draw estimate, in my opinion, based on the fact that everything stays normal and IRCC doesn't get any other fit about giving any pauses anymore, the CRS score should be in the range of 486 to 488. And the reason I'm so conservative with that number is one, because I expect no more than 3,500 invitations to be issued, because they do have to balance out for the whole year as to how many invitations they will issue. In my opinion, for this year, they are expected to issue about 70,000 invitations. Mind you, one invitation does not mean that many number of people. One invitation would also mean multiple people because of the family in that same application. And the quotas that you see on IRCC website are always for people, not for ITAs. A lot of people confuse that number. So that's what you should understand. Plus, we also know that each 2 weeks, each gap between the two draws, there are a significant number of people who do get added into the pool with either the scores of 600 plus because of the PNP of the nomination that they have, and also 500 plus because, hey, high scores because of job offer, because of French, because of master's degree in Canada, or of course Canadian work experience. And with that in mind, I am a bit conservative with my speculation there. So CRS between 486 to 488. I'm more in the range of 487-ish probably. But let's keep our fingers crossed that at least they do conduct a draw so that the scores finally break that 489, 480, 490 barrier and come into more 480, so we can breathe a sigh of relief there as well. So fingers crossed for that one. Back to this. Great news for the work permit holders in Canada, the postgraduate work permit holders, because those guys were really, really, really under a lot of stress, because absolutely dead silence from IRCC for a very long time. So IRCC now has, after the COVID pandemic, has made this, or rather provided this relief for postgraduate work permit holders. The reason why it's a relief is because by law and technically postgraduate work permits cannot be extended. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You cannot get another postgraduate work permit. They're very, very strict with it. So the first time they came out in 2020 and they gave this exemption, and people were eligible or were allowed to extend their postgraduate work permits. Then they came back in 2022, and they backtracked from September 2021 onwards until 2023, until December 2022. And everybody in that period was allowed to extend their work permit for 18 months, which was, as I said, pretty good move. Now, I'll be very honest with you guys. I was quite not so optimistic that IRCC will do it again, because nowhere did it seem likely that they would go out. And this created a lot of tension within the 2023 group, in the sense like there was nothing coming out of IRCC which said that they will also do the same thing for 2023 postgraduate work permit, the people whose work permits are expiring in 2023. There have been a lot of advocacies, a lot of consultants, the consultant groups, the lawyers, the MPs, a lot of international students, of course, themselves, because they were the ones who are most affected. A lot of people have been promoting, or rather been advocating, so that this exemption be given. A lot of international students went out and even demonstrated in front of some of the government offices, and thankfully, finally, better sense prevailed. And for this time, IRCC did once again, for the third time now, extended, or rather has extended the postgraduate work permits, which are expiring in 2023. This is also going to be applying again retroactively for people whose work permits have already expired in 2022. There are so many of them who, for one or the other reason, were not able to apply for their work permits, or whose work permits were refused because they made an incorrect application. Now, those again have got a reprieve. They have got another relief here. So everybody whose work permits expired in 2022 and whose work permits are expiring throughout the year of 2023, all of you will be eligible to get another work permit, or will be get an extension of 18 months. And this basically means right up till 31st of December 2023. Even if your work permit is expiring on 31st of December 2023, you would be eligible for this 18-month extension. Now, people whose statuses have expired, or who did not restore their status, they were freaking out, or who changed their status to visitor, or who changed their status to student, they will all be eligible for applying for this 18 months extension. People who left Canada because they had no other option, their work permit expired, they just did not know what to do, and they went back to their home countries, they will also be eligible for this 18-month work permit extension. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that incredible? Because that gives so many people an opportunity again, and a shot at the Canadian permanent residence pathway, because by coming back to work in Canada, they would again be able to get their Canadian work experience in. This time, maybe be more smart, not wait, and target specific PNPs where their work permits can be utilized in a manner which will give them better opportunity. But you know what? Let's hear it from the horse's mouth itself.
My view is that Canada needs to continue to increase its ambition when it comes to immigration. We need to continue to welcome more people for economic reasons and for demographic reasons. That brings me to today's announcement. Over the course of the pandemic, we've seen particular challenges to Canada's immigration system, which we're working hard to overcome, including with recent graduates who studied here in Canada hoping to apply for permanent residency. Of course, when we closed down the border to protect the public against a deadly virus, the COVID-19 pandemic demanded we do so, we saw some unique consequences that we didn't necessarily anticipate back in March of 2020. What we ended up seeing was applications from around the world continued to come in to Canada at a time when we were not continuing to welcome people to the country in order to protect the public health and prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. When the borders opened back up, we had a few years worth of applications in the system. One of the unique impacts that this has had as we transition to a strategy to settle people in Canada with permanent residency who were already here was that the average score with so many applications in the system was much higher than was normally the case. And people who had completed their studies and were on a postgraduate work permit had a harder time qualifying for permanent residency, not because they didn't have the skills necessary to qualify, but because so many applicants were in the system, those who certainly would have qualified previously didn't have the same opportunity. We want to continue to hang on to that talent in Canada, not just to fill gaps in the short term in the labour force, but to ensure that we're meeting the long-term needs of the economy by continuing to have skilled workers who are educated in Canada here making a difference. I'm happy to announce a new initiative that offers postgraduate work permit holders an opportunity to gain additional work experience. This initiative will be open to postgraduate work permit holders with expired or expiring temporary status in Canada, and it will allow them to stay longer in Canada and continue to work in Canada. Former international students whose postgraduate work permit expires in the year 2023 will qualify for an additional or extended work permit of up to 18 months. Those who were eligible for the 2022 postgraduate work permit extension will also be qualified for this new measure. Beginning on April 6th, postgraduate work permit holders who are eligible for a simplified, faster process to extend their work permit can opt in using the IRCC secure account on our website. For those who apply, they will receive by email an interim work authorization, which they can affix to an expired postgraduate work permit that will enable them to work in Canada, and will have 18 months to remain in Canada and continue to work and apply for permanent residency after they receive that work permit. Former international students who've had their work permit expire will also be able to apply for this new open work permit. They'll also be able to restore their status even if they are beyond the 90-day restoration period, and they will receive as well the interim work authorization that I've just described.
All right, so that was Sean Fraser himself. That was the media release that came out from IRCC yesterday on a live stream, and that's when he declared about this postgraduate work permit extension. Obviously, all this will take effect from the April 6th. So for the time being, at least you know what this is coming, and everybody should be able to get interim work authorizations for the interim period so that until the work permits are actually issued, you can continue working, so you don't have an issue with that. Just attach the interim work authorization with your expired work permit, and you can go back to your employers and you can show that to them and continue working. The whole process of getting the work permit is going to be almost the same as last year. In most cases, for people whose work permits are expiring later in the year, they should automatically get a renewal and automatically get a work permit in their mail. For people whose work permits have already expired and who are out of status, they should be able to restore their status and also apply for a new work permit. People who are outside Canada would be able to apply for a work permit. People who are on a different status already, visitor or student, they would also be able to apply for a work permit. And all of these situations hopefully will be taken care of. They've also indicated that they have learned from what happened last year, because there were some gaps there. There were some things that did not work the way they anticipated. Hopefully this year would be much more better and streamlined. I know there has been another question which has been coming from people who are postgraduate work permit holders, and what happens to their spouses? Do they automatically get an exemption? Do they automatically get an extension? No, they don't. Spouses are not included automatically as part of this application. So if you are making your application, or once you do get your work permit approved, at that point of time, you can apply for your spouse's open work permit. If you are applying for your open work permit, rather extension for it, then along with your open work permit application, you can also add your spouse's open work permit application with proper documents. If your work permit has not yet expired, it will expire later in future. Only after you get your work permit will you be able to apply for the extension for your spouse's open work permit. It will not be given automatically. You will have to apply for it. So I hope that clarifies. That basically is what happened with the great news that came out in terms of the work permit extension. Also keep in mind, this will be in effect from the 6th of April. So you will be able to make these changes to your address. For example, if you have to get a new work permit, that will happen from the 6th of April. Plus the work permit authorizations, the interim work permit authorizations will also start coming in, hopefully after the 6th of April. That's basically all that we had in terms of this week's roundup. Do connect with us on different platforms. And if you're still here, give us a like, because likes are always good. It helps the video go out to more people. And of course, do subscribe to the channel because, hey, numbers go up. Numbers go up means more people get to watch the same channel, the same videos. And it also helps, in a way, you trying to spread the good message, okay? That's basically all I had in terms of the presentations for today. I don't have anything specific to discuss about. And one of the reasons, I trust me, I love immigration as a subject. I can talk about it 24 hours nonstop. I don't really need to even prepare a script if I'm making a video as such. My only problem is that I suck. I'm horrible with video editing. And the amount of time it takes to edit the video, it just becomes one of my deterrents to not make more videos as such. But if anyone of you know of a good video editor, then please post in the comment. I'll be happy to talk to them and maybe hopefully then generate more videos and send it out. I've tried a few, didn't really like what they were doing and didn't work out. Hence, more videos from me would help me. If you can also suggest some video editors, really would love that. Right, let's take with the question, or rather get on with the questions. Postgraduate work. Oh, sorry, before we get on with that, there is also another burning question that is coming from a lot of people, and that is about postgraduate work permits which are expiring in 2024. Now, this makes for another big debate. This is something similar that happened earlier when 2022 everybody got an extension. 2023 did not get an extension. At least I thought IRCC is not going to do it. Again, this point of time, I won't say IRCC is not going to do it. All I can say is it seems unlikely, but then anything can happen. It has always been that they have taken COVID pandemic as the reason in the sense of how people were affected. But as we are moving forward and now we're getting into 2024, I'm not sure how likely IRCC is going to be wanting to extend the postgraduate work permits in 2024. Of course, advocacy can help. How you reach out to your MPs can help. How you as international students collectively raise your voice and let IRCC know how you are impacted, because 2021, 2022, 2023 got an extension, but 2024 is being left out. In some cases, just for a matter of days, right? I mean, for example, you may have applied for your postgraduate work permit in August of 2022, August of 2023. But if you are getting your work permit only issued because IRCC chooses to delay it only by Jan or Feb of 2024 or 3, that does not mean you should. Jan of 2024, that does not mean that you should be excluded, or your work permit, because it is 1 month later, that you should be excluded. So by all means, raise your voice and see if IRCC is willing to accommodate that. There is a lot of talk about all postgraduate work permits should be renewed. Again, that comes very strictly under the purview of law. I'm not sure how keen IRCC is going to be looking to do that, because that changes the entire perspective of how people choose to study. For example, a lot of you choose to study 1-year program because it gives you 1-year work permit, 2-year program because it gives you 3-year work permit. If IRCC then goes out and says that, hello, we are going to change the whole process of work permits and we will give 18 months extension to all work permit holders regardless when, blah, 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 then that changes the whole dynamics, right? Then who really wants to study a 2-year program? Not really, right? You're not interested. Everybody wants to just do a 1-year program, get 2.5-year work permit, make sure you get a pathway. So it doesn't sound logical at this point of time, and it doesn't look realistic that IRCC may look to do that. But hey, who am I to say? IRCC, I'm sure, has a better think tank and operational department who does their thinking for them. But here, we can always sort of, there always can be wishful thinking and expect groundbreaking changes to for this to happen, because I mean there is a lot of fraud that is happening. Talking about the fraud, 700 international students have been issued deportation orders to leave Canada, being deported from Canada. Why? Because When they submitted their study permit applications, they submitted a fake or a fraudulent offer letter from a specific college. And all these 700 applications were apparently processed by one single consultant, a so-called consultant, definitely not a consultant, a so-called agent in a city of Punjab in India. Now, the thing is that these people submitted their applications somewhere in 2018, 2019, long time back. After that, they came to Canada. They changed their colleges because obviously those acceptance letters or admission letters in that specific college were fake. So they had to then change their college to a different. They had to change the program to a different college. They were not even aware in most cases. Most of these international students were not even aware that they have been defrauded. On the contrary, they just believed the agent, and the agent said, listen, the semester is, the seats are full, or we'll put you into the next semester, we'll put you into a different college. The students believed, and then they went on to study in different colleges. They completed their studies. They applied for postgraduate work permits. They got it. They completed their work periods in Canada. Then from there on, they have gone ahead and applied for PR. Only when they applied for permanent residence have they been caught with this. And then CBSA, during their investigation, identified this specific agent. And then based on that agent, they pulled up all the different files. They identified 700 students, and then they've called all of them. Very brief investigation. They have all been issued deportation letters. This is not cool, right? I mean, I do not know who really you can point a finger and blame. Of course, definitely blame the agent, because he or she or whoever that person is knew what they were doing. They played with people's life. Now, this is 700 people. I'm sure there are many more. It's not like that the agent woke up one fine day and said, okay, let me defraud 700 people. Also, knowing the success rate of study visas, we know that not everybody gets approved. So there could have been many more people who he may have defrauded, maybe who do not get approved for their application. Some of them may have not yet been found out yet at this point of time. Because if this was 2018 and 2019, means he continued to do this. Once he found success in something like this, a fraud is not going to stop, right? They will, right? A lie doesn't die. So he would have continued. And I'm sure there are many more international students out there who may also have been defrauded, who now should start wondering and worrying whether they are one of them. So first of all, if you are one of those people who worked with this specific agent, you should definitely start getting worried. You should definitely start figuring out what you can do. Of course, for these 700 people who have been issued the deportation orders, there are certain provisions within the law what they cannot do in terms of filing a stay order for the deportation, and then filing for judicial review, filing for humanitarian and compassionate grounds. But the problem is, the minute you have committed a fraud, the minute you have provided a fake document, it becomes very difficult for anybody to give you any humanitarian and compassionate grounds or any provision for that. That's number one. Number two, the fact that you did not, as an international student, you were not even aware that you were committing fraud. The problem is you were still using an illegal agent. And that also becomes part of misrepresentation, because in your application, in most of these cases, the agent did not submit through any representative portal. So it was your own account was created and the application was submitted as if you yourself are submitting the application, which basically means when you submitted your application, you chose that you do not have a representative. Actually, you did. So now for you to go back to the judge in the federal court and say, hey, I filed my own application, but I did not know that the consultant or the agent cheated me, it's going to be very contradictory. So to be very honest, this is really put those students in a bad fix and a bad situation. I hope, and I'm really hoping that they do find a legal way out of it. It's going to cost them a lot of money because lawyers are not cheap. I know there is a member of parliament who's running a collective provision to help most of these international students. You can always reach out to him. I don't have the number and name with me right now, but I'm sure we can find that out, and you can reach out to him and add your name to the list of people for whom that person is going to be advocating. But collectively, this is looking very difficult. But my grievance is not with forget the agent. I mean, the agent did what he had to do. I'm not sure what's going to happen to him, and whoever can do whatever to him. Let's address the elephant in the room. IRCC, you present a document to them, they conduct a verification, they conduct a background check. They are refusing applications left, right, and center for all kinds of ridiculous reasons. Whatever happened to them checking whether the basis on which the application is being made, that is the acceptance letter, the offer letter of the college by itself, is that genuine or not? Why is nobody calling out IRCC? Why is nobody asking IRCC the question? You were the ones who approved the application. Okay, let's say we made a mistake. Let's say we were cheated. We provided you the fake. Why were they not rather refused on the first step when the application was made? Why were they allowed to come to Canada? Why were they allowed to study in Canada? Why were they allowed to work in Canada? And then at this stage, when the PR application is being submitted, that's when they're getting caught. How? Why? So now 5 years of their life has been effectively wasted because now with all this rigmarole, they will have to be under tremendous stress. They would be under tremendous problems. They would have to obviously shell out so much more money trying to fight these cases and figuring out what to do. So many of them will obviously get fed up, frustrated, depressed. What about their mental health? What about their families? You know, how tormented their families are going to be. If they are married, their children. Effectively, IRCC's failure has now disrupted the lives of 700 families altogether. I mean, so before we start blaming the agent, before we start blaming the students and of whatever the students didn't do, what they should have done, shouldn't have done, of course, we can talk about it, right? But what about IRCC's failure? Why didn't they pick this issue right at the beginning of the application and stamp it down? But here we are, everybody, all the headlines, all the news articles, 700 Indians being deported, 700 students being deported. Hey, students are bad. Hey, students commit fraud. Hey, the agent. In most cases, the student didn't even know they were committing a fraud. They were actually victims. In some cases, they didn't even know until they were called by CBSA to come to their office. And that's when they were questioned that you have committed a fraud. They didn't even know that. So when you read these kind of stories, always don't take them at the face value, just try to think deeper. I mean, of course, the agent, he's missing in action after having committed such a big fraud. In most cases, after paying off the local people of any value, he will probably get away with this in most cases. But I feel for the 700 families because it's not fair to them. And a huge failure is actually from IRCC side when they did not verify and validate the study permit applications in terms of the job, the acceptance letter itself. So yeah, that's something where I feel this has completely failed. Yeah, don't like it, but it's how the life goes on. Right, let's get on with this one. Postgraduate work permit expires on March 26. Passport expires in February 2024. What to do for extension? Well, the first thing is apply for your passport immediately. Feb 2024 means you now have less than 1 year, means by law, you should be able to apply for an extension of your passport. Apply for the extension of your passport. Let IRCC know when they will allow you to update the system, and then you can apply for your postgraduate work permit extension. You will get 18 months. I worked multiple full-time jobs. One is in Canada, one outside Canada. Would this cause any issue for FSW applications? I'm online claiming points of outside Canadian work experience. No, it's absolutely not a problem. As long as you can prove your work experience, you're good. My work permit expires 31st of December 2023. Will I get extension? Aren't you the lucky one? Aren't you a real lucky one? Yes, you are absolutely entitled and eligible to get 18-month work permit extension because, hey, yours expires on 31st of December. Good one there. If I answer no to the question, are your family accompanying with you during profile creation? And if the person gets PR, can the person sponsor PR for his family later on when he is a Canadian PR? Yes, you can. There is no problem with that. Okay. For super visa, do we need to mention the purpose of visit, length of stay in the invitation letter, and need to show ties to home country, or ties are optional? Good question, Sanket. Super visa application is also a visit visa application. Okay, it's just that this visit visa application gives your parents a provision to stay in Canada much longer, 5 years. So what it basically means is because your parents can now live in Canada for a longer duration of time, 5 + 2, actually 7 years at a stretch if they wish to, the ties to home country become relatively less significant. But that does not mean you should not provide ties to home country, because at the end of the day, this is still a temporary residence visa. It's still a visit visa, where the final or the actual intention is that you are in Canada temporarily and that you will return back to your home country after the legal valid period of stay. So that's a very, very important one. Now, as far as the letter of invitation is concerned, it's always good to provide one, because that establishes few things, as in you being the child, you are inviting your parents, a small purpose of why, of course, being with the family, being with the children, being with the grandchildren, spending some more time, family time together, quality time together. Length of stay, you can give it at any point of time from 8 months to 12 months. That sounds reasonable and good. And that should just be it. We have handled so many super visa applications that I kind of lost count of it. And I can tell you that any invitation letter of this sort will absolutely work fine, no problem with it. I'm an international student with spouse having open work permit. April study permit will expire and I will apply for postgraduate work permit. Do I need job offer from 0 to 4 tier for an approval for open work permit for my spouse and postgraduate for me? You don't need a job offer for a postgraduate work permit application, but you do need a job, not only job offer, you need to be actually working, and you should have already been working for a month and a half so that you can have at least 3 pay stubs. And any tier level is fine. You are no longer restricted with 0 to 0 to 3 or 0 to 4. It could be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know, 6 is there? No. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so tier level is not important, but you should already be working. How will you be working? Well, if you're an international student, you are allowed to work part-time. If your work permit was, if your study permit was issued before October 7th, then obviously you can work full-time at this point of time. So you should already be working, and you should have at least 3 pay stubs. So when you're applying for your postgraduate work permit, you have to add those documents about your employment and your 3 to 4 pay stubs in your spouse's application. Only then you will be able to apply for her or his, depending on whatever. And that is how you'll be able to apply for the open work permit for the spouse. Are new medicals required for PR application for someone who's currently on a valid postgraduate work permit but resided outside Canada for the past 1 year to earn foreign work experience? Okay, so the condition is that you are exempt from providing new medicals if, and conditions are: 1, that you are applying for PR application inside Canada; number 2, that these medicals that you have completed previously should be within the last 5 years from the date you are submitting your PR application. It's very important. Now, whether you traveled outside doesn't matter. Whether you took whether you completed your medicals from outside any country, it doesn't matter. The only condition is that 1, you are applying while you are inside Canada, and 2, that your medicals should have been completed, the previous one, within the last 5 years. Okay, that's the only 2 conditions that you need to be aware of. I'm already in Canada expecting ITA. How soon can I withdraw my proof of fund from a Canadian bank after AOR? Well, technically you shouldn't, because your proof of funds are meant for your settlement in Canada, and therefore you shouldn't be withdrawing those funds at all. CEC applicant with spouse. After submitting the documents, I'm going to India. Upon receiving PR portal request, how many days IRCC will send the file to my nearest VO for the PPR request? There is no standard timeline to this. Sometimes they send it the same time. Sometimes they send it even before they send you the portal request. Sometimes they send it after a few months. So there is no specific timeline as such. I'm in Canada. I got my AOR recently, but haven't got my PR yet. Can I use my proof of funds as I'm facing my emergency? Can I book one-on-one appointment with you? Well, if you wish to book one-on-one appointment, then that is the link. By all means, of course, you can always book an appointment with us to discuss your queries and questions in detail. But to answer your question, where did it go? Now, if you're using your funds for emergency, then those funds are not for your settlement in Canada. That's number 1. Number 2, if in most cases, as of right now, IRCC is not asking for updated proof of funds. But that doesn't mean they will not ask for updated proof of funds, or there is no requirement for them. IRCC can ask for updated proof of funds at any point of time for any reason that they may feel that the person needs to provide the proof of funds. Could be exchange rate, could be long time has passed within the application submission, could be the funds that you provided were absolutely at the border, and therefore they need to make sure that you do actually have the funds available or not. So I usually would be very wary from touching those funds, but emergency is emergency. If you do choose to withdraw funds, then be also careful to return back the funds to your own account so that the funds are maintained, so that if at all IRCC does ask you for updated proof of funds, you can always explain emergency and the fact that you did deposit the funds back after your emergency was taken care of, and hopefully that should be fine. Documents required for proof of fund cash, proof of cash foreign work experience. Okay, so this is a good question. Let's address this one. So what happens is, cash salary is a very, very big question. In our countries in the subcontinent, and not only subcontinent, but in a lot of countries in Africa as well as in the Middle East, Egypt, a lot of countries in Africa, otherwise India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. For a lot of people, salaries are paid in cash. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing in Canadian immigration law, regulations, IRPA, which says that you have to prove or you have to establish the mode of payment of your salary. You have to be paid. That is in the law. That is the requirement. But how you are paid is not the criteria. So if you're being paid in cash, that's absolutely fine. There is no problem. That work experience will also be accepted. The condition is you have to be able to prove how you were, the fact that you are paid. In this case, when you're paid cash salaries, in most cases, the company will give you a voucher where you sign that you've been paid in cash. So if you have copies of those vouchers, that works. If you have copies of pay slips or pay stubs, even if you're paid in cash, companies will issue pay slips, pay stubs, telling you this is how much you are owed and this is how much you're paid. You could also be signing on a register where the company has written your name and that every month they're paying you a salary and you're signing against it, because the company at the end of the day has to manage their accounts or the books, and they will in most cases keep some record that they did pay you, even if it was paid in cash. And in the worst case scenario, if there is nothing else available, then in addition to all these documents or some of these documents, and in addition to your reference letter, you can also provide a cash salary certificate, which basically means it's a salary certificate from the employer where the employer is stating this person, Kubeir Kamal, has worked in my company as an accountant or as a bookkeeper or as a marketing associate or as a recruitment consultant or a recruitment coordinator or any other position from May 1st, 2016 to April 30th, 2020. And he or she was working for these many hours per week. And his salary, his last drawn salary was 20,000 rupees per month. And as per our company policy, we paid this salary in cash or his salary was paid in cash. If you have any questions, please contact me, signed, undersigned, and the person signs it. This would be the content of the salary certificate. There is absolutely, I've submitted so many applications, so many people who I've helped with or have been associated with in terms of submitting their applications. Not once have we had any issues. As I said, the idea is for you to be able to prove. So you're proving that the fact that the person was paid. Salary certificate is there, pay slips are there, pay stubs are there. In some cases, people have even filed income tax returns, even if their salary was under the income threshold. But this is absolutely fine. There is no problem. You can provide, or rather you can claim work experience if you are paid in cash. All you need to do is prove how you were paid in cash, or prove that you were indeed paid in cash. Okay. All right. I lost the question now from there. Let's see. You don't need your job. You need, okay, I'm not sure. I think he was answering to some question. How do we inform IRCC of change in passport? I'm expecting a passport request anytime soon, but I'm waiting for my new passport. Okay. If you have any documents that you wish to upload to IRCC, update to IRCC, change of passport, damaged passport, new passport, birth of a child, change in family circumstances, for all of this, the only way to do it is use a web form. Web form, if in case you know the visa office where your application is being processed, choose the web form to go to that specific visa office. If you don't know it, then simply upload the document that you want to in the web form itself and let IRCC know what the change is so that they can add that in your application. Okay. All right. Somebody is trying to act funny here, so we'll just throw him out. I took 1 year course, got 1 year work permit, which will be expiring on 13th of August. So will I be eligible for 18 months extension? Well, if you have a postgraduate work permit, If your postgraduate work permit is expiring in the year of 2023 or is expiring or rather expired in 2022, in both the situations, you will be eligible to apply for extension of 18 months. However, if you have a work permit which was issued under any of these public policies which were announced in 2020, 2021, 2022, and if that work permit is expiring in 2023, then you are not eligible for extension of that work permit because that is not a postgraduate work permit. That is an open work permit which has been issued under a public policy. So a lot of people also confuse themselves with this question. Only postgraduate work permit are allowed. Only postgraduate work permit holders expiring in 2022, 2023 are now allowed under this provision to apply for an extension. Any other work permits that were earlier approved and expiring in 2023, 2022 are not eligible under this provision. Okay. All right. Gotta quickly wind up because have to run to the office to prepare for today's information session. So very quickly clearing out all the super chats if I can. Divyang Patel. Okay, let's see this. There is a month less experience when claimed an express entry by mistake, got an ITA, but even though doesn't change score because month is on top of 1 year, any problem? I'm not sure what you're trying to say or ask here, but the question is, if you have received your ITA only after completing 11 months, then you can continue with their ITA, provided you submit your application only after completing your legal and valid period of work. This is a glitch in the express entry system whereby it calculates your start date as the first of that month and the end date also as the first of the month that you are indicating, thereby giving you a 1 month earlier credit in your work experience points. IRCC is aware about it. There have been so many instances where applications have been submitted. There is no issue. You can continue with the application. However, submit your application only and only after you have actually completed your legal period of work experience that you're claiming points for. Okay. All right. I'm just clearing out the super chat so we can then get on our way. I got approved work permit, a postgraduate work permit extension in 2022, which expires in 2024. Will I get another 18 months under the new public policy? No, unfortunately not. You've already gotten one extension. You are not eligible to get another extension based on this public policy. Okay. Looking for one specific question here. Divyang Patel, sorry, my friend. I think we just took care of your question already. All right. Noman Hussain says, I'm processing OINP human capital priorities. My brother from UK sent me around 6.5 thousand. Now I have prepared a gift deed. Since he's in UK, I'm in India. Is it must for me to sign the document as a donee? You don't have to. There is no such requirement because first of all, there is no specific format IRCC wants for a gift deed. Okay. This is us, people who create all these formats and make it so complicated and difficult for people to understand. Donor, donee, deponent, all these things are what we use in our formats. IRCC is not. IRCC just needs proof that this money belongs to you, and the money belongs to you by way of a gift deed. That's fine. So a gift was given to you by your brother. Your brother has made a gift deed or a letter of gift or a letter of deed or a gift of deed or a deed of gift, which simply says, hey, this is the money that I have. I am giving it to my brother. I gave it by this in this mode. I gave it on this and this date. I don't want this money back. This money now belongs to him, and I wish him all the best. And I notarize it. And you are notarizing it basically to establish that you are the person who signed that document. That is what the notary establishes. And that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely good. There is no other issues for donor donee signature at all. Okay. See other messages for question. I'm not sure which other messages you want me to see for question, but it's not possible for me to keep going back and forth. Okay, I found it for you. Employer 1 in NOC, employer 2 in NOC. I am CEC, employer 2 not giving letter. Okay to show employer 1 letter for foreign work experience. Well, to be very honest, this kind of a question, I can't really sit and calculate which employer, which period, how many years of work experience. Technically, I mean, really, realistically not possible over a live at this point of time. However, any period of work experience you can claim points for, and only for that period of work experience do you need to show documents, whether it's at employer 1 or employer 2, work period 1, work period 2, it doesn't matter. It has to be within the last 10 years. and the points that you are claiming, okay, that has to be which are giving you the points in terms of your eligibility and CRS. And for that period for which you're claiming points, you're providing documents. IRCC will consider only those periods of work for which you are providing documents and will only give you points for that period of work. I hope that helps, and that should be it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining in. As I said earlier, if you are around town, then by all means do give us a visit. We will be doing our information session today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I apologize in advance for people who we will not be able to accommodate because we don't have any more space left. Okay, I'll see you if you're coming in. Otherwise, I shall see you next time. Until then, take care and be good.